Welcome to the Talk Like a Leader podcast, where we explore the mindset, skill set, and habit set of leadership communication. Using these tips, techniques, and tactics, you'll be able to talk like a leader to build better relationships and get more done. Your host is Guy Harris, who has more than 20 years of combined professional and military experience in consulting, coaching, and training in areas like team and interaction dynamics, communication strategies and tactics, as well as emotional intelligence. Take it away, Guy.
Hi, this is Guy Harris. Welcome to the Talk Like a Leader podcast. This episode will be scheduled for release on Tuesday, February 25th, 2020. And that is National Pancake Day. So in honor of National Pancake Day, this episode is titled The Pancake Theory of Communication. To get us started, I'll share with you just a simple statement of the Pancake Theory of Communication. It is, no matter how thin you make a pancake, it still has two sides. Another way I've heard effectively the same thing said is, there are three sides to every argument: your side, their side, and the truth. So when we look at the pancake theory of communication, the idea that no matter how thin you make a pancake, it still has two sides, that idea translates to the communication process in this way. When we're in communication with another person, there are two sides to the communication, or as the alternate statement says, three sides: your side, their side, and the truth. And when we look at pancakes and what pancakes look like and what we can learn from observing pancakes, there are three critical things to think about, or three lessons we can learn from pancakes about communication. The first idea is that you can't see the other side of the pancake only by looking at one side. So if you think about communication in this way, that you're in conversation with another person and the general concept is to convey an idea to the other person or to hear an idea from the other person so that ultimately you have a shared picture of the idea, or you make the idea common between you. As you're trying to convey a message to another person, you see your side so clearly that it's obvious to you. The challenge is that you won't be able to see the other side or the other person's perspective only by looking at your side. So, lesson number one from the Pancake Theory of Communication: you can't see the other side of the pancake by only looking at this side. The second thing you can learn from pancakes is that you have to invest some effort to see the other side. If you can't see the other side by looking at this side, that means you actually have to flip the pancake over. You have to put some work into it. You're not going to see the other side until you make an effort to look at the other side. So the next thing we can learn from pancakes about communication is that to see the other person's perspective, to understand how they see the world, no matter how similar it might be, to truly understand their perspective, you have to put some work into it. You have to make an effort. And then the third thing you can learn from pancakes about the communication process is that the center of the pancake is more tender and less caramelized than the outside, meaning the center is not as tough as the outside. When we're in communication with another person, our view of the communication and their view of the communication is just a little bit crusty. There's a bit of a barrier we have to break through to get to the other side, to get to the truth in the middle. Remember, three sides to every argument: your side, their side, and the truth. So if we look at a pancake, you'd say that your side is the side of the pancake you can see. Their side is the side of the pancake they can see. The truth is in the middle. And the middle is not quite as tough as the outside. Once you get to it, once you understand it, it's much easier to build a bridge with the other person, to understand the other person. So how can we practically apply these ideas? Well, the three ideas are that you can't see the other side of the pancake by only looking at this side, meaning you can't see the other person's perspective only by considering yours. You have to invest some effort to see the other side of the pancake. You have to flip it over. So you're going to have to put some effort into trying to understand the other person's perspective. In order to do that, I would suggest that you keep in mind the idea that we want to remain curious about other people's perspective. Just because I can see all the rings and patterns and brown tones and caramelization on my side doesn't mean I can see all the rings and patterns and caramelization on theirs. And it's not safe to assume that my side looks just like their side. There are probably some differences. No matter how similar they are, they're still a little bit different. So I have to remain in a curious and non-judging place in order to keep my mind in the perspective of seeking to understand the other person's perspective rather than to assume that they see the issue or the situation exactly the way I do, or they hear the words I use exactly the way I mean them. Maybe they don't. Maybe I need to ask questions. I really won't know the other person's interpretation of my words unless I ask them and give them a chance to answer me. I won't know what the other person meant by what they said unless I ask them and give them a chance to tell me. I won't know how they see a situation unless I ask them and give them a chance to tell me and then listen to it. The value of that effort is that the center, the truth, the shared perspective or shared interest in the center of the pancake is more tender and less caramelized or less tough than the outside. The truth is easier to embrace when we understand it. We can get past our filters, our negative interpretations. Just recently, my wife and I had a conversation, and she said something. She was relaying a story to me, and because of the way she relayed it, it sounded to me like she was critical of something I had done. I heard in her word choice and her telling of the experience that she was judging my intention, that somehow I had done something wrong. And then this pancake theory of communication came to mind. I was reminded, or it occurred to me as I thought about what she said, maybe she didn't actually mean it the way I heard it. Maybe there was something more to it. Maybe she was just relaying the story and not trying to make a judgment. Maybe I'm feeling guilty for not having taken an action. Maybe there's something in my perspective that's poisoning this communication. So I had to ask her if she had intended for me to hear that as a criticism. And she said, "Oh, no, I wasn't thinking that at all." Well, then I have to accept that and move on. Because the center is less caramelized and tough. It's not as judgmental. It's easier to accept if we're willing to ask. So in your communications this week, I'm going to ask you to remember the pancake theory of communication. Remember that no matter how thin you make a pancake, it still has two sides. Remain curious and non-judging. Remember to extend benign intent. So many things that are common themes in this podcast. No matter how thin you make a pancake, it still has two sides. If you'll keep that in mind in all of your communications in the coming week, you can talk like a leader. This has been the Talk Like a Leader podcast. You can listen to this show every week wherever you get your podcast. If you haven't, be sure to subscribe so you never miss an episode. I'm Guy Harris, and thanks for listening.